Welcome back to Beyond the Spot, decolonizing healing one brain at a time. This is episode 36, When Belonging Hurts, Healing After Community Wounds, Betrayal, and Exile, with Tracy Monroy, licensed professional counselor, brain spotting trainer. And it feels good to be back in front of the microphone after kind of like a short, long break. But with this week's episode, I want to begin with a truth that feels particularly relevant right now. There are many people walking around carrying wounds they cannot fully explain, not because they don't know what happened, but because the injury wasn't physical. The injury was relational. The injury happened inside spaces that once felt like home. And sometimes those wounds can be harder to heal because they challenge something fundamental, not simply trust, not simply safety, but belonging itself. As a clinician of many years, I have noticed some things. Many people come into therapy believing they need help managing anxiety, managing grief, managing stress. But underneath those experiences is often a deeper wound, a wound that sounds something like, I don't know where I belong anymore. This is Beyond the Spot, and I am absolutely excited to spend this time with you. Beyond the Spot, decolonizing healing one brain at a time, is a podcast that weaves my first love, of course, brain spotting, and somatic informed modalities with embodied healing, cultural consciousness, and real talk about trauma, resilience, and recovery. Hosted by Tracy Monroy, a licensed professional counselor, spiritual healer, and the first Black female brain spotting trainer in the world. Each episode dares to dismantle mental health myths, uplift lived experiences, and restore collective wisdom. One conversation at a time. Beyond the Spot podcast is for educational purposes and is not therapy. Please reach out to licensed medical and mental health professionals. Thank you. In true Tracy style, I want to start right here today. The nervous system experience of exile, because I find this very important. We know that the nervous system is sacred. One of the oldest human fears is exile. Long before modern society, separation from the group often meant death. The nervous system remembers this, which is why rejection frequently hurts more than people expect and can oftentimes be tricky to identify and call in. The body experiences social exclusion similarly to physical pain. Take a moment with that. Let me say that again. The body experiences social exclusion similarly to physical pain. This isn't weakness. This is biology. And if I might extend a reflective invitation, take a moment and ask yourself, where have I experienced exclusion that I minimized because it shouldn't have hurt? What happens in my body as I remember it? That's important. Remember, let's go slow to go fast. Yeah. And I want to talk about belonging versus compliance. One of the most important distinctions I have learned is this: belonging and fitting in are not the same thing. Fitting in often requires performance. Belonging, on the other hand, allows authenticity. Many people were welcomed into communities only as long as they remained agreeable, useful, quiet, productive, and even compliant. The moment they became fully themselves, the relationship changed. That is not belonging. That is actually conditional acceptance. As someone who has spent years in helping professions, faith communities, professional organizations, leadership spaces, and all the things, and dare I say, in family system, I have seen this repeatedly. Sometimes communities celebrate your gifts until your voice become inconvenient. Yeah, I said it. How we celebrate people's gifts, folks' gifts, until their voice becomes inconvenient. Sometimes people applaud your growth until your growth disrupts their comfort. And if we're not careful, we begin believing that authenticity is the problem. Well, I stopped by today to tell you it isn't. It is not. And let's go right here: community trauma in marginalized communities. Let's talk honestly for a moment. Many marginalized communities are carrying collective nervous system injuries right now. People are tired, exhausted. People are grieving. People are navigating uncertainty. People are experiencing social and political tensions that directly affect their bodies. But I want to be careful here. This is not about creating an us versus them narrative, because that's never the solution. But nervous systems do not benefit from division, they benefit from truth. The reality is that suffering crosses identities. The specifics may differ, and even the histories may differ, but disconnection harms all of us. And healing requires us to resist the temptation to reduce each other to categories. That gets into othering, right? And I want to extend a reflective invitation here. Ask yourself, where have I allowed someone else's humanity to become smaller than their identity? Or how about, where has someone done the same to me? Pause and just give that consideration for a moment, because we're leaning into this idea of betrayal trauma. Conflict is painful. Betrayal is different. Conflict says we disagree. Betrayal says, I thought you were safe. And that distinction matters because betrayal often reorganizes the nervous system. People become hypervigilant, withdrawn, distrustful, and ultimately disconnected, not because they are difficult, but because trust was injured. If I may share what brain spotting has taught me, one thing I have learned through brain spotting is that the body often remembers relational wounds long after the mind has moved on. Someone may tell me, I thought I was over it, yet their body tells a different story. Their eyes find a spot, the nervous system begins processing, and underneath the presenting issue is often grief. Not simply grief from what happened, but grief for what should have happened. The relationship, the support, the community, the belonging. And let me be clear, there is a way that we can engage rebuilding after relational injury because for far too long, ruptures remain unrepaired. Healing does not require becoming less trusting. Healing requires becoming more discerning. There is a difference. The goal is not to build walls. The goal is to build wisdom. The nervous system can learn that one betrayal does not define every future relationship. One exclusion does not determine our worth. One community does not represent all communities. If I may extend a reflective invitation here, what would belonging feel like if I no longer had to earn it? Think about that. Consider that. What would change if I believed I was worthy of connection before I proved my usefulness? Perhaps one of the most courageous things we can do is remain open to connection after we have been hurt. Not naive, not unguarded, but open. Because healing is not merely learning how to survive disappointment. Healing is learning that our capacity for belonging remains intact, even when a particular relationship, organization, community, or even family member could not hold us well. And maybe that is today's reminder. You are not the rejection. You are absolutely not the exclusion. And you are in no way the misunderstanding. Those are experiences you have had. They are not your identity and they do not quantify your value. Thank you for spending your time with me today. And please know humans are wired for belonging, but we gotta be present with this idea of what happens when the people, the communities, organizations, or institutions that once felt safe become the source of injury. We're exploring that today. We are exploring community wounds, betrayal, trauma, organizational hurt, relational exclusion, and the nervous system consequences of losing a place that once felt like home. Because we got to begin to lean more into belonging from a true operational definition versus fitting in. And there is a biology of rejection and exclusion. And we must honor betrayal, trauma, and nervous system responses. Yeah, we can, in fact, heal after relational injury. And I am in no way dismissing discernment. Because as we're rebuilding trust, we should not abandon discernment. Thank you. And please share this episode. This episode is for anyone who's ever asked, where do I belong now? I am Tracy Gantlin Monroy, your host, and it is absolutely my pleasure to be here with you. Thank you. If today's episode resonated with your nervous system or your spirit, share it with someone who's still unlearning and reach out to me. My website is gracecommunitycounseling.com. You can reach me on Instagram at Monroy LPC. That is MONROY LPC. Also, I have offerings from retreats to brainspotting trainings to workshops, you name it. And I am also a speaker. So if you ever need a speaker with my skill set, look me up. Give me a call. Let's see what can happen. And absolutely for you clinicians and adjacent body healers, feel free to reach out and attend a brain spotting training. We have trainings all the time. Thank you.